Okay, JP, I like some of your words you were using there. Post.
Yeah, well, we can't let the literalists get away with the notion that their understanding of a sentence is right. Yeah, that just isn't how a text works. Exactly. It's way more complicated than that, and that's a big problem because it
way
opens
more
up
complicated
the specter of infinite interpretations,
specter
which is the postmodernist dilemma. Yeah. But saying the text has no meaning or any meaning is no solution to that. It's like saying life has any meaning or no meaning.
I mean, here's the boot barn. When they say I'm going to come in your stone mill. I'm going to tell you things about insurance. I'm going to tell you things about 401k guy about if I give this person money, and all they can do is a 401k with investing. And then here's this one. It's a problem, and it's math. Because we'll get back to math and how some of that is very, very important. How you can't do it without it. Which brings up the topic, I don't know, I was watching one of them, it said something about monarchies to him, and JP snapped on him a little bit, but the correct kind of snap. It's like, I didn't agree with monarchies. It's like, words have meanings in terms of spectrums. I mean, spectre, postal, whatever. I can't get one right offhand that works great. But the concept is that we all agree that is what a dog is. It's not an apple, there was Raven Paradox. This book is to you
freedom and tolerance
about freedom and tolerance when actually it's about mathematics and true. It's talking about a Tredox, matrix, M1 set, those symbols, these paragraphs, these sentences, under the concept, depending on how you like the Solomon's angels, Solomon's demons, whatever marshmallow for esoterica you're dealing with, throw it in there. I mean, it's like clicks, more about clicks and ticks in the brain. I can't necessarily dissuade to totally say the total demographic when you put things like dominion in mathematics and in other functions, because they work the same by a sigma. And it's like that area of operation, the environment of the sum could correlate to anything X. And when we do that, it gives us irrational battles while dealing with death battles out there.
Thinking about the problems of making...
Pause, JP. I've been waiting for one like this for a good long little while, and now that I've thought about it, this should be fun. You stay. You go. You come up here, and you come over here. Let's see if 42 and me have been working out this algorithm correctly. Ah, yes. Yes. What is the one we want? What else we got? Transformer versus Rainbow. All right. We could hit the SCP Foundation up tonight and talk about Tredox this way. But we'll see what else we got. All right. Flash versus... You be Flash, I'll be Quicksilver. JP. Prime Minister, what do you want? I think this is the Prime Minister. Right, somebody from Israel or something like that. Islam. Okay. Don't even know in the place, apparently.
No.
So there will be some math. See if we can find some.
Actually, the one who just...
Okay, so these are first vector positions. I got Tokyo in 38 seconds from wherever that was, and that creates an FMA problem. Now, when I run that same distance against any kind of parallel index X, Y, or Z inside here, they give me an index between this and this, essentially. And that's a real simple form because it's a Jacobian matrix, YF over S. A dimensional analysis starts to say, let's change the time around X, Y. Let's change the distance around a little bit, Payne train here being nuclear. And I can mass you out with enough paper just from these design start phases where it doesn't matter where the question is infinite. The Euler's numbers you could take from here, even in the stone mill, going to Stanford levels of sociology, civil engineering, and other forms of plasticity, deformation, hyperbola. I mean, you got the twister theory right here. And from my other video, you might have to look one up real quick. You're going to start to see that hyperbola, right? We're right on in it. Now, you just put the X and Y in the middle of it, and it's essentially, I'm an electron, you're an electron. It's an E1 to E2 Feynman diagram under photons. Shake it out. Shake it like a Polaroid picture. And inside of there, I can say between there was all kinds of sets. But there was obviously molecular movement going on. There was Hawking's radiation being emitted in the form of dark matter and dark energy. I don't know if you caught that one from the black hole from Anton on my watch list about, well, expansion could create black holes. Well, no kidding, JP. If we deal with every sector, standard model D&D, and I want their stamina, I want their charisma, I want their constitution, I want whatever arbitrary, I can make it more than once. Sometimes the problem with gravity, when we deal with these death matches, there's always a problem. At the end of it, somebody's going to argue, well, Wolverine clearly, or whoever, the Flash here, clearly could outthink them or something. And the story arc presents that information. Even them dealing with, well, I have to deal with this moment. It is for sure a physics inside here. And if you look at similar events, they follow the same storyboard arc that says it's at least congruent into some level of when I'm dealing with photons inside here of range in the options, that it would still make sense. It seems like that could be within the spectrum of options, downrange, the specter there of this multi-world and universe of saying, well, that's what it is in the stone mill right now today. I can't guarantee it, but for the money to change from ash to cherry would be odd. It would be very odd, to say the least. And if it did, it would do it by a very specific ratio. It would do it by portions of the day. That's how I figured out the inverted square law to it. I figured out vector positions to it. And inside of there, you have a squared city. You got, this many days of Hanukkah. You got
making peace in the modern world for a very long time and stressing the need for a liberalization in the Islamic world and perhaps some modification on the Christian side as well, along the lines at least of what happened in the West. He's interested in theological questions as well as political questions, and I'm particularly interested in talking to him because the conflict between Islam and the Jewish and the Christian worlds is a theological and political problem as well as a psychological problem. So
got in line with an army.
I'm very much looking forward to this conversation.
We got JP, one of my favorite. He talks about the Egyptian president back in before World War One or right after. It's like obviously the biggest porn collection and money everywhere. A guy is completely fucking incompetent. And you got to make sure that when you have technology like 2020, it's like, I have to know the war room. It's like, if I see information you're going to claim is sensitive inside here, then it should correlate to mathematics sensitively. Who's to say? I mean, what is sensitive to be the first part in this? What is secret information, JFK? I mean, it's really about, you would be willing, there's kaijus running around down there, fucking rapists, murderer, pedophiles, drug dealers right here, here's the brief. Fuck, I don't care if they move. The fact that I'm hiding them in silence here is a fucking problem.
There's a clear distinction between those two, and I believe that to be true for psychological reasons as well as political reasons.
It's like, this would have been that asshole. If you see this asshole out there, Danger Dave, doing some dumb shit in this incident report like that, guess what?
A single sentence that anyone
do the
has
math.
Said that has had a bigger impact
it's a job.
On the history of the world.
It's economics.
As I understand it,
shit.
That
it's literature. Every story ever told, Slay the Dragon.
Of political processes that were independent of the theological substructure beneath them, and the justification for that there were separate domains
out there.
And that
We're not
was
even
okay
from the same
theologically.
Tribe.
And so I want to know if that's your understanding of the situation
we're still all
as well.
competing
And then
for
we can
psychological,
talk about
mathematical
what that
dominance
means
here, because
for
that
Islam,
dominance
I
gives me standard model.
It's not so
he
obvious,
carved
let's
that
say,
path
that
when nobody else had carved it before and said it wasn't.
I would totally agree
with
you that
free
separation
radiant
of
energy
church and
to
state
Uber
in the Western
but it's more about a
tradition
city
has
thing.
been
You think it's really going to be
blessing for
satellite
humanity. I mean,
powered
West
and
itself and the
solar
broader,
on the decay or on the
story? And I think that's
what is it in
evident in the fact that
chemistry? Start
a lot of
aspirin,
Muslims around the world
Tylenol.
today
You're going to
who are
drop
persecuted in
everything
their
on the
countries come
steps
to
there.
live in the
I mean,
West
you're just
where
going
they
to get
find
hammered.
freedom. And if it was a Christian theocracy here,
And so you got to make it one move.
There.
It's all one bucket, one nut. And it's like, well, let's look at the federal budget. Stop what it is you're doing. Just stop. You don't need anything new when the system doesn't immediately go over the rails. And then here's the byproducts of the T numbers when it says, do your team's going to make out? Have you bought off all the... I mean, when you went to go to do any of these things, right, Bill, whether it's I have a company in my family or I'm president and I paid Larry today to do tomorrow, and it's the oldest problem in the fucking book because it would follow math.
And somehow a bias towards religion, actually it becomes harder to accept from a religious point of view. And one problem in the Islamic tradition is that we always had the French version in my country, Turkey, and in Tunisia. So we never
I don't
got
need,
a full
if
sense
you come at
of
me with something like a hyperbole or a hyperbolic tension or trig, I'm gonna absolutely that
story. I mean, we can discuss
there
more.
might be a reason why because an asshole like you are out there, I have to
the
teach that
statement
in high school.
Jesus Christ, right there.
And for the most part,
has been
it's just going to be a
discovered
wide
and
problem
used
of
to
Common
justify
Core
the
as you
separation of church and state.
see the
I mean,
lead
the very life story
inside
of
here.
Christ
Maybe you can call me crazy. Maybe that's not the number inside here, but in the end of that, you'd have to look at this and say, look, there's going to be teachers unions. And firstly, it's like, give it fucking to them. It's like, this is more beneficial. It's like, you're going to listen to yourself and all the bullshit that you had before while trying to explain this problem and trying to stick to this ball and this geometry. It's like, take them to something real that they all need. Obviously, they'll need food, water, shelter, some of the basic shit. And you don't need to take that to Shangri-La for them. That is for the teacher to grade according to the system, or a final fucking exam, or help you work on some of the numbers as a teacher. It's like, well, that's obviously not how you do that type of architecture inside here. It would lead to some sheer problems in Caesar's Tower.
One should be based on contract, so that
Bones is more.
Of course, the liberal tradition that I highly value. But I will say a similar process of rereading the scripture is taking place in the Muslim world.
Look, I could hammer Sun Tzu word for word for calligraphy back to back to back to back. It won't do me any good unless I start to change that off into a code, wind talker stuff, engineered battle maps, E2, take the hell, do it in Cherokee, Quantum 7, but that still means E2.
In their time and context, it wasn't possible. But now we see
you
the
could
full
say
meaning
one
of it.
flock,
For
one
example,
sheep,
one
Muhammad.
example is
You could say,
powerful statement in the Quran, which reads,
I don't know it well enough to do it, so you're going to have to back that up. Mulberry Bush.
I mean, it doesn't say secular state, but it means religion should
Take
be
it up with
based
salt.
on
These
no
government's
compulsion,
fucking
in other words,
issue.
freedom. And this was there in the Quran for centuries. And
right? You know what? There are no
Muslims made
parties in
only a
America
little
when you
sense
think
of this.
about
They
it
said,
from
okay,
Washington's
this means you will
perspective.
not
There's no
convert
party,
people
not even
to
like
enter
Christian.
Islam.
It's like
Generally, that was observed in the
it can
classical
serve a
Islamic
function.
tradition. That's why
When
Jews and
used
Christians
correctly, the
live under
calculus
Islam.
will output
But
that
they didn't
result because you
understand
called
that
it those
in other ways.
terms.
For example, this should be
And
that
everybody
perhaps if
agrees,
people want to
yes, that's what
convert
those
out of
terms
Islam,
equal. Fy
that is
over x.
apostasy.
X would have been the result
should be free
inside of
based
there.
on this
And
course.
it's
But no,
simple.
they said, actually it doesn't mean that way.
So you walk into
they
that office with
limited
that, and it's like,
the
can you
meaning of
defend that?
the
If
course.
I
And of
said
course,
that
there
to
was
you on
religious
Fox, if I
policing,
said that to you, if
checking
you
people
were
out
on the
of
other
the
side
Bible,
here
not
instead of
the
JP,
persecution of heretics. These
do
things
you
happen
think
in
you would
Islamic history,
survive
but
this in
now
terms of
other
what
Muslim
math it is
thinkers
you
are
do?
saying, listen,
How do you
when
not
God
do
says
that
there is
math
no
and come to
compulsion
this
in
kind of
religion,
result
it's a
about
universal
certain
statement
pays or
of
going through the companies in the
compulsion, in other
area
words,
which
religious freedom.
you
So that's a
design
new
over or
reading
have fucking
that
sway
Muslim
of the
scholars,
goddamn
the
legal
more
function
modernists or
inside of there
reformists,
and the enforcing
and
units.
persuasion
And just have them do a goddamn review. If not them personally, then tell me about the budget problems why you need to fucking hire them. Because it wouldn't go to anything else, and I would see results. I would see more people on the ground, and I would see a fucking result.
Like that to a fully developed political and theological